I belong to you.
I belong to you.
Do just what you want. You're the one I trust.
What's it into an area? Keo, Zamora!
And I'll always be around when you need some love and baby. No one else.
Yeah. Put you down. Sing all my melodies,
Hey guys, I'm Sai and welcome to Ace Podcast Nation, the home of the Andy Campbell Championship Show. This is episode number 56. The show is available live on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope and Twitter. Ace Podcast Nation is also the home to many other great shows featuring top guests, expert analysts and more. So please give us a follow on social media, subscribe to the YouTube channel and find more information in the links in the description as well as the closing credits. And of course, give the show's social media pages a follow. You can find them at AC Footy Show on all platforms: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter and LinkedIn. Of course, I'd like to take this opportunity as well to thank Martin Spate and Black Diamond Sports for all their support. Black Diamond Sports is a global sports agency representing sports stars from around the world in various sports. For more information, visit their social media pages. The links are in the description and in the closing credits. But of course, we thank them for helping us out and supporting us as always. And a big thanks and shout out to Darren Rolson and Bespoke Financial for sponsoring today's show, the Andy Campbell Championship Show. We appreciate their support, and here's a quick word from them as well.
My mummy and daddy have been talking about life insurance. It sounds like something to protect my brother and me, but I don't really understand. Then my auntie Louise told mummy about Bespoke Financial Teesside. She said they're a local company who helped her with her life insurance. Mummy got in touch, and because they're based locally, a man called Darren was able to come to our house. He was really friendly. Darren stayed for a cup of tea and made it all really easy to understand. He said that life insurance will protect our home and family if anything bad were to happen. Like if mummy or daddy got sick, then we'd get enough money to take care of us, and our house would be paid for so we wouldn't get taken away. After an hour, Darren said goodbye and mummy and daddy seemed a lot happier. Once it was all sorted, we could all relax and watch a film together as a family. I don't know why they didn't do it sooner.
Yeah, big shout out to Bespoke Financial for their sponsorship of this show and the football show on a Monday. Bespoke Financial specialise in life insurance, critical illness, income protection, mortgages and sports cover. And big thanks to them. And I urge you all to check out their social media pages, their website. I'm sure that you'll all agree that we're always looking for things like life insurance and the like. Joining me to talk the championship and the madness that was Wednesday evening and the end of the season. It didn't disappoint. Introducing the speed demon, the goal collector, fox in the box, former Cardiff City and Middlesbrough striker, Davy Jones's favourite son, Mr. Andy Campbell. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, mate. Yeah, very well. Yeah, excitement. It had everything. It had everything. Bit of nerves, you know what I mean. Went right to the death. You know, there was ups and downs. Things changed. Playoffs relegation, promotion. It was absolutely outstanding. So yeah, definitely food for thought about doing it again. I thought it was amazing.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We had,
Yeah, I loved it.
You know, all the regulars as well, all the regular viewers, or the majority of the regular viewers were in there joining us, which was cool, because you know, without the people, we're nothing.
No.
And it was a lot of fun. And
Yeah.
the best part was, like you say, it didn't disappoint. There was all sorts going on at the top, at the bottom, in the playoffs. Swansea made the playoffs. Forest bottled it. Brentford bottled it. Luton Town survived, as predicted by me on last week's show.
The way that I
And
look at this, Si,
in the
is
we're in the preview. Sorry, mate. In the preview
all right.
show, all those 55 shows ago, Simon says Luton Town will stay up. There you go.
I'm pleased it did. I'm pleased it did. I just think it was it's the league what just keeps on giving. You know that the Premier League's all serious, but this is a different animal, the Championship, and it's going to be even more fun next season. There's going to be better teams for me coming into it, both up and down, which we're going to talk about soon. And I just think the excitement, the players, it's just really interesting, and just it's just going to be fascinating to talk about for the next 60 minutes.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. And there's not so many games to talk about, so we can put a bit of extra in terms of next week. So we're going to preview the playoff games and really put a nice bit of focus on those 4 teams. But we'll start off, as always, with any other business. So I'm going to start, surprisingly to some, less surprisingly to others, with a bit of a rant. Okay? So I'm going to start with the negative first, mate, and then we'll move on to the positive side of it, from my point of view anyway. Jude Bellingham leaving Birmingham, going to Borussia Dortmund. Great.
Mm-hmm.
Was racially abused by, I believe they were Man United fans, but whatever, idiots.
Football fans still.
Yeah, just calling him racist names and that because he's moving. He's moving on. Good for him. 17, got a dream move to one of the biggest clubs in Europe. I don't see what people's issue are. So I think it's pathetic, and it just leaves a nasty taste in my mouth, real big. More comically, because that's not funny at all, but what I did find comical was that Birmingham City have retired the number 22 jersey, I believe.
22, yep.
Because 17-year-old Jude Bellingham has moved to Borussia Dortmund. Jude Bellingham, I believe, played a season and a half for Birmingham's first team.
I think he played 44 games, Si. He played 44 games.
44 games. And they retired his shirt. Now, if every single club follows suit... And
So I played 60 odd for Middlesbrough, wearing number 32, and I'm sure they still have that one. So I'm very, very disappointed.
Yeah, very, very upset by Middlesbrough's lack of respect. But my point is, right, if every club...
Si frozen. Please, somebody message and just tell me that one of us is still on or I'm still on. Please, if you can, just so I know.
I'm back, I think.
Right, you're back. Yeah, you are. There's 2 of you. There we go.
Oh,
That's
mate,
better.
I don't know what happened then. My computer just said it's shutting down, but I was like, why? But anyway, so sorry, I was mid-sentence, I think. What I was saying is, if every club does that for an academy product, whereby they play 40-odd games, and then when they move on to a bigger club, they just retire their shirt, there'll be no shirts left by 2030. It's ludicrous.
I don't think Birmingham handle it very well, Si, and I'm not blaming or condoning. You know what I mean? But they put unnecessary focus on a young boy who's leaving a football club, where instead of just making this big thing, that they've got a big transfer fee for him. Yeah, so they've sold him. That's enough for me. Wish him well. He can do his own little emotional plea to the fans through his social media when he wants to do it, because obviously there's no fans there. So I just think they've created unnecessary an audience for him. You know what I mean? Which is then coincide with him getting racially abused, which is absolutely bang out of order, by the way. And I just can't believe that we're doing Black Lives Matter, and then he still gets it when football fans aren't even in the stadium just because he's moving. Just because he's moving to another club.
Basically, United fans who were annoyed that he turned them down. I think. What I could see.
It just doesn't make sense to me. The whole thing is just it's childish, and I just hope that he doesn't take it too serious. And
I thought he seemed to handle it well.
And he moves on. Oh, he did. Listen, there's been some ridiculous tweets, fun tweets, but ridiculous tweets from certain clubs saying that they're going to retire certain jerseys because certain players have done this and certain players have done that. And he's responded to quite a lot of them, which is great, you know. And he's he's had a bit of humour to it, and I like that. And it shows that yes, he's a 17-year-old young boy, but he's also got a little bit of an edge to him, and he should be very proud of the way he's handled himself throughout this, really. So it's obviously something that he can enjoy. He can go and move on. He can go and move to one of the biggest clubs in the world, and then hopefully kick on and become a world star.
Yeah, look, he's got the talent to be one of the biggest stars in the world. Is at the end of the day, a lot of it will come down to the decisions he makes off the field at the end of the day, and what his attitude's like in training, and all the usual cliches and things and all this type of stuff. But like, I just find it absolutely ludicrous to retire his shirt. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know who made that decision, but it's ridiculous. Like Craig says there, he says you can't retire this shirt. Some kids would want to aspire to play in that shirt because of Jude Bellingham. Like, yeah especially local Brummie kids. Of course they are. They're going to want to play in the same shirt
Totally
that
agree.
Jude Bellingham played.
So look, listen to the bigger picture. Right, you've got Man United, the biggest club in the world.
And you've got jersey, have they?
Exactly. You've got Brian Robson, Eric Cantona, Ronaldo. It's endless. But David Beckham, it still goes on strong, and it's a privilege to wear it. You know what I mean? The number 23 with David Beckham. You know what I mean? It follows people around, and why isn't number 2? Listen, Man United wouldn't have any shirts left because all the success they had, number 1 would be gone. Number 13 when Schmeichel wore it. Number 1 when Schmeichel wore it. Number 2 when Gary Neville wore it. Number 3 when Dennis Irwin wore it. Number 5 when Steve Bruce wore it. 6 we can go on, and it's just teams wouldn't have any shirts left. We might as well have no numbers on the back.
Well, you look at it like you wouldn't have had Beckham wearing number 7 because he would have been retired when Eric Cantona left, or Beckham or Ronaldo,
But he aspired. David Beckham aspired to wear his hero shirt as Brian Robson. That was his dream, was to wear his shirt. So that was something unbelievable for him to do. And the same thing with Birmingham, because Birmingham ever be successful, someone wants to wear that 22 shirt, surely.
Yeah, it's bizarre, mate. So Gaz says the championship is so good. Championship is so good, and this show is so good. I'm almost gutted the Hammers are staying up. Which there you go. But tip for Leslie said Milan versus Atlanta tonight is buying money. He said it's a tip for you.
Tip for me.
Yeah. Craig Sullivan says people haven't retired. Robson, Dalglish.
Yeah,
but players come into the club wanting that shirt.
Kevin Keegan.
It's different for 1 to 11. But you're right though, isn't it? Like even players. Even if you take out academy players wanting to aspire to wear those shirts, like when people sign for clubs, they might want to follow in the footsteps of X-player,
Oh, listen, that was my dream, Bernie Slade was my hero at Middlesbrough. Bernie Slade won number 7. He jumped on the whole gate end every time he scored, and I used to love it. And I had a dream that I would wear number 7 and follow in Bernie's footsteps and aspire to be everything that he was. And if they'd have retired his shirt, like they should have done, because he's miles more of a hero than Jude Bellingham was. I just think they haven't helped the matter. They haven't helped what's going on, and you know what I mean. And I think the less said about it, probably the better, really.
Indeed. So the next bit of sort of any other business, but it kind of falls into, the general show, is we're going to talk about the potential teams coming down and the 3 teams coming up from League One. So let's go with the Premier League teams coming down. obviously Norwich are already down, aren't they? But
Yeah.
I think it looks like it's out of 3 for those final 2 spaces in Bournemouth, Watford, and Villa. I don't think there's any other teams who can.
No, there's not. No, it's either Villa, Watford, and Bournemouth who are going to go down. Brighton are just safe now, so they've only got 1 game left. And I just listen. Norwich are still going to be strong in my eyes because I look at the bigger picture and how many of them players are going to move back to the Premier League. Probably not many. Bournemouth's probably similar. Watford, you're probably looking at a handful of players who'll probably leave. Villa, Jack Grealish will probably leave, but the rest will probably could stay. And these clubs have got enough money to keep those players there because they'll have the parachute payments and want to go back up and need to go back up. So they have to take a risk, and which makes the teams who don't go up this year, the likes of potentially Brentford, Fulham, Cardiff, Swansea, Nottingham Forest, makes the league even harder for them next season. You know what I mean? And then you've got some surprise packages where there's always some surprise packages, as we well know. So I just think it's going to make the league even stronger, which is absolutely fantastic for the Championship and good for English football, really.
Yeah, and those playoff teams have got to be looking at it, thinking now's the time to take advantage, win 3 games, go up, because the Championship to get out of next year is going to be even harder again, like you say.
Yeah.
My one thing with Bournemouth, I think if they go down, which looks probably likely, I'd say that out of the 4 which we mentioned, I think they would worry me the least, simply because I think Eddie Howe will go, and I think they're probably going to lose the likes of what's the centre back called? Who used to play for Chelsea.
Is it Ake?
Yeah,
Ake.
I think he'll go. The Welsh boy who plays on
Brooks,
the wing,
David Brooks.
Yeah, I think he'll probably go.
Even probably Josh King and
I
Wilson.
think I read Josh King's already signed for someone.
Wilson.
Like the rumour. Yeah, Harry Wilson plays for him as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, and the other Wilson is it centre forward Wilson as well. Listen. It's going to be interesting. You want the best players to play in the Championship, but also Premier League teams are going to look at these kind of players and think, how have they done this year? Are they good enough to? If they were good enough, they probably would have stayed in the Premier League this year. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, there is that aspect to it, but I think big teams will look at Ake. They will say, right, he's a young defender.
Individuals, yeah,
excellent.
Yeah.
You got David Brooks, who's been out for most of the season. Excellent, attacking player, worth a punt. Same with Wilson. Josh King has proven that he can score goals if he's given the chances. So I think Eddie Howe is ready. I think he's taken Bournemouth, regardless of whether they stay up or down. I think he's taken them as far as he can go.
He looks a broken man as well, Si, and that's what I don't like about this game. You know what I mean?
He looks fed up, doesn't he?
Yeah, he looks like it's the end of his world, and there's more clubs out there for him. I know he's been there most of his career. He went to Burnley, didn't work out. He went back to Bournemouth. He's done an amazing job. He's an amazing coach, amazing manager. And probably does need to step aside and go somewhere else and reinvent himself and show how good he is with working with different players, because he's not getting the best out of a group of players at the minute, and sometimes that can just happen, and it is happening for him.
Where I think would be a good move for him would be a Newcastle, Southampton, maybe even a West Ham if David Moyes doesn't stay there. If he I
agree.
Up. I think
I'd like to see him, Si. I'd like to see him with a bit of money.
Some money.
Yeah, I'd like to see him with a bit of money. I'd like to see what kind of players he buys, because he's a lot of the players he's inherited from lower leagues and done wonders with. He's bought young players, Ake, Wilson, Brooks. So he knows the market really well. You know what I mean? So, and these kind of players will be really good in 2, 3, 4 years time. But at the minute they've just struggled fitness wise. Some of them. Level of performance and obviously lockdown hasn't helped Bournemouth one little bit.
No, and do you know the other thing I think with that? I wonder if he's been linked with the Everton job before. Now, Carlo Ancelotti at his age isn't going to be Everton manager forever. Now, does he look at that and think, right, I'll stay with Bournemouth for another season and assess my options then? He gets credit for being loyal. He can sort of carry on the work he's done with one eye on that job, because he's been linked to that job continuously over the years. And it would be an excellent fit for him. And Everton have got some real money to spend. But
loyalty Loyalty, Si. You've just hit the.
Well, we talked about it.
You just said the word there.
Monday, didn't we?
He's been too loyal, and it's to his detriment really that he's going to end up taking them down. That's going to be stuck on his CV forever, and it might stop him getting a top job, getting relegated. So I hope not. I hope obviously he recovers from it, and the club can move forward and find the level again, because they've had an amazing journey. Bournemouth, you know what I mean, for the size of the club to be where they are and where they have been for the last few years has been amazing.
Indeed, yes. So the other thing we're going to talk about is the teams going up. So
we've got Coventry.
Foremost, we've got
Coventry
Wickham.
City. Yeah, we've got Coventry City.
Ainsworth.
Coventry City, Rotherham, and Wickham Wanderers. Start with Wickham. That obviously they went up the hard way. They went up through the playoffs against some very good sides, by the way. They beat Fleetwood in 2 legs, and then they beat Oxford United at Wembley. So a very, very tough route for them to go through. Listen, in comparison, they are the smallest, probably one of the smallest teams in League One. So for them to get promoted into the Championship is an absolutely unbelievable feat, and it's all credit to Gaz and his players. And I really hope they can kick on next season and see where the journey goes, because all they've got to do this season, side for me, is look at Luton. Look at Barnsley and understand that there's an opportunity to stay in that league, and there's an opportunity to do even better than what they did, because they've also got to progress as well. So there's nothing to be scared of. You know that they played against them kind of teams 2 years ago, so they know exactly what they're all about. And they can go to the Aston Villas potentially. They can go to Norwich. They can go to Middlesbrough. They can go to all these big grounds and enjoy playing in front of really big crowds week in, week out now.
Yeah, 100%, mate. And Wickham, they've always seemed to have been able to get the best out of their sides in the big games. It's whether they can do it week in, week out over the season against the less glamorous sides in the Championship. Yeah. It's easy to get up for when they play, say, Aston Villa, if Aston Villa go down. But can they get up to go to Swansea or whatever?
Can they do it on a wet Tuesday night at Stoke?
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, but that's what's impressed me side this year with teams like Leeds United. You know that Leeds United's downfall for the last probably 5, 6, 7, 10 years has been going to Luton Town or going to Barnsley or going to Huddersfield and go to a lesser team and messing up and losing. You know, I mean, they can raise the game at home against the big sides and play the big occasions, but they've stuck in there this year all year, and they've done a fantastic job. So I think teams need to look at that remit and just understand what model it needs and it takes to get out of this league, because this can be replicated next year by any team if they feel, and that's by putting a plan in place for each game, taking each game as it comes and attacking each game, because Leeds went at every single team this year and look at the reward they got, Premier League.
Very quickly, how do you feel about the way the League One and down did the playoffs and the positions with the points per game system?
Shambles. Absolute shambles.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
It shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have happened. It's got to be fair, because it's got to be fair for everybody. If the Championship are carrying on, then League One and League Two should have carried on. That's just simple, really.
Yeah. At the end of the day, mate, that's it, isn't it? Either finish the seasons or don't.
We can't have a split. We can't listen. They're all interlinked, these leagues. So we've got teams who are getting relegated into League One, but we've got teams who are being given. And that's Coventry and Rotherham I'm talking about. They're being given an opportunity to go and play, where Wickham earned it as well, by the way. So I don't see why Wickham had to earn it, because did Wickham finish third? Oh no, so they didn't. They finished out. It would have been Oxford United who finished third, I think. Yeah,
well, I was going to say, one of the teams in one of the leagues, I don't know if it's League One or Two, they'd been in the playoff places all season, pretty much. They were in the playoff places when the lockdown happened. And then, because of the points per game system, they weren't in the playoffs.
It's Peterborough United. Peterborough United, because I follow the chairman on Twitter.
Anthony, Darryl McAnthony.
Yeah, and they've been in the playoffs all season. They've been in automatic. And they missed out because Wickham had a game in hand, and their points per game, it was only goal difference. What was the difference? So they win in because of that. And listen, I don't agree with it, but I do believe Wickham would have got in the playoffs. They've been up there, and I'm not saying this just because I'm friends with the manager and I know a couple of the players. I've got friends and other teams as well. And Sunderland missed out as well, and that's a huge football club. Ipswich Town, they had games in hand.
Got a big problem, mate, because they'll have to sell players now. I
totally agree, but they should have and could have got in the playoffs, because they could have gone automatic. They had that many games left. It was still a possibility.
So then we got Rotherham, who finished second. What do you think of their chances? They've always historically
Yeah,
have struggled, haven't they?
yeah, they have. I remember going back in the day when they got promoted when Cardiff were in the Championship and they came up, they went straight back down. So they have had a bit of a turbulent yo-yo a few years about the go up. I don't think they invest quite a lot of money on the playing staff, so they try and generate the same kind of players, put young players through. So I do worry for them, but listen, they can take some pluses from Luton Town and Barnsley this season and have a right go at what's going to happen. They've got a nice new stadium, and then see where it goes. But a team I do fear for a little bit is Coventry City, and not on the pitch, more off the pitch, that are still unsure. They haven't got their own ground. I think that as the season ended, they were playing at Birmingham City. So for me, I don't see how you can come and get promoted and be allowed in the same league as Birmingham City, because Birmingham City are going to. I know it happened in the FA Cup, but Birmingham City are going to play at their home ground and be the away team. Yeah. In a change of colour, it doesn't sit right with me.
Shambles, man.
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it.
The one thing I would say about Coventry, on the pitch, I fancy their chances of staying up. By the signings they've made already, signed some really good young players, which I think in the Championship is a very good idea.
So also they're a huge football club. I go back when they won the FA Cup against Spurs in the 80s. Was it the 80s? Whatever year, or early 90s. I think it was late 80s. And it was just amazing. And I've always followed them from afar ever since. When they were at Highfield Road and they had Dion Dublin, Noel Wheel and Darren Huckabee. They had some unbelievable players, and they're in the Premier League week in, week out, and doing really well. So they could be a sleeping giant and could get back up, but they need to obviously get their off-field problems sorted out at the same time. Yeah,
it's a shambles, mate. Unfortunately, there's not much that they can do, because it's not down to the manager, it's not down to the players. No. It's what it is. Okay, so we did a live watch along on Wednesday, which, as we mentioned earlier, was a lot of fun.
Didn't we just?
As you just saw on screen there, Johnny Wish just said it was amazing. It was good fun, and the Championship proved why it's the most entertaining league in the world to watch. It didn't disappoint right up to the end. The mayhem which occurred. Most importantly, we found out who was going up, who was in the playoffs, and who was going down. Obviously, Leeds were already crowned champions. Congratulations to them. Earlier this week, I spoke to former Wales and Cardiff City defender, now working behind the scenes at Brentford, Mr. Rhys Weston. So I asked him about Brentford missing out on the playoffs, and here's what they had. Missing out on automatic, sorry. Here's what he had to say. I'm joined by former Wales and Cardiff City defender, currently working at Brentford behind the scenes, Mr. Rhys Weston. So Brentford just pipped at the post for the automatic position. Going to go through the playoffs. It feels like that result last Saturday was the one that kind of was the opportunity, really, to have it in your own hands. And then, things just didn't pan out with the results on Wednesday. Will that be difficult for the players and the club to pick themselves up for the playoffs, or do you think that they'll, motivation will just take over?
Who knows? It's such an emotional, challenging thing, isn't it? You come so close to achieving your goal. You spent the majority of the season chasing your opponents, and you get an opportunity inadvertently. That Huddersfield West Brom game presented Brentford with such an unbelievable opportunity, and a lot of people have questioned, did they have enough experience? Did they bottle it? And so I think the combination of things, but also you can't ignore the fact that Stoke were, banging form at home since Michael O'Neill's come in. I think their form is more in line with the top 3 or 4 teams in the division. So it was always going to be a difficult game. Add to that the pressure of having your fate in your own hands, and of course then you're banking on the results to go your way after that defeat. Unfortunately, it didn't play out that way. But it's a young group of players Brentford have got, and they haven't really experienced disappointment as a group. So it can go one or two ways, and the playoffs are a lottery. I've been through it myself, and form counts for a lot during the course of the season, but its momentum is key going into these knockout games. And again, unfortunately, there won't be any fans in attendance, which of course adds another level of complexity to the whole kind of process. But look, it's going to be very, very difficult. Obviously, Brentford facing my old team, Cardiff. That'll be a difficult one emotionally. But it's going to be challenging for all the teams, isn't it? And there's still then an empty Wembley will be waiting for the winners of the semi-finals, and who knows what can happen there.
Rhys Weston there. He said something interesting about the form table. Now, on last week's show, when you made a prediction about that game, Brentford versus Stoke, you used the term Stoke will down tools as usual, as you predicted a Brentford win. That did not happen.
No.
But I just had a quick look at the form. I'm looking at the form table now. So Leeds are top because they won this is for the last 6 games. So basically since lockdown was lifted. Fulham second with 1-4, drawn 2. Swansea third, 1-2, lost 1, drawn 1, 1-2. Stoke City in fourth, having lost 1, drawn 1, won all the rest. Then Brentford, who've obviously lost the last 2, and then Cardiff. So all of those teams, with the exception of Stoke, are in the top 6, which is interesting when you think of the disruption that lockdown has caused to all the teams from probably the top 6 down to relegation.
Part of me agrees with you, and part of me also thinks there's a reason why Nottingham Forest aren't in there, because they're not in the playoffs because because they've lost too many games, they've dropped too many points. I look at the playoffs and think it doesn't matter for me how you're going into form, because if you play well for 3 games, you're promoted. If you have 3 of the best games of your career as a football club, you're promoted. As a centre forward, if Mendes Lang or Ben Rama or Mitrovic or Brewster can score 2 or 3 goals in the playoffs, the chances are that team's going to get promoted. So these big players come to the table. It's going to be really, really interesting, because all teams, and I know we're going to go through them later on, but all 4 teams are full of really, really good players and Premier League players. So it'll be really interesting, and each game's going to be it's going to be like a game of chess, and it's going to be really interesting, really intricate. But end of the day, whoever goes up deserves to go up. And I know we have a laugh and a joke on here about the league table never lies, but West Brom have gone up because they've been the second most consistent team over 46 games, and Leeds obviously deserve to go up, and Brentford just failed at the last. And we grumbled about Cardiff City at the start of the season side, didn't we, about how many goals they let in. And we can probably say that about Brentford as well, because the games that they've dropped points in has obviously come back to bite them on the backside a little bit, because you go through the last 2 games, Brentford against Barnsley and Stoke against Brentford, and then you can go earlier on in the season. That's where they dropped their most points. So, you're always playing catch up. They had a really, they had an unbelievable time after lockdown. They won every single game apart from the last 2. So that's where they've got themselves in that kind of position. But teams drop points at vital times, and vital times are throughout the season, the 46 games. So it's the consistent teams who are going to win the leagues and get promoted.
Spot on, mate. So I'm going to ask you a question. Did Brentford bottle it?
I wouldn't say they bottled it. I think the pressure got to them. I think the pressure got to the big players. I think the pressure got to the manager. And especially on the last game, because they were a win away from getting promoted again. And the Stoke game, I think could have gone anyways. And you said there about the form table. Stoke are one of the strangest teams I think I've come across this season. That I watched them against Middlesbrough 5 weeks ago, and I thought they were absolutely disgusting. Michael O'Neill's still the manager. They've got probably the best squad of players on paper in the division, but they're such underachievers. It's scary. And then obviously Brentford going to the Barnsley game, full of confidence, really, needing a win to get promoted, and it doesn't work out for them. And I'll say the draw was probably a fair result. I've watched the extended highlights, and the way that the Barnsley second goal came was Brentford throwing everybody forward, because they knew they had to go and win the game. So they were leaving gaps, and someone was always going to win that game. We spoke about it on Watch Along that someone's definitely going to score in that game, and it could have gone Brentford, but unfortunately for Brentford, Barnsley sneaked it in the end, and they stayed up.
Yes. I think personally, I think they did bottle it. I felt the manager particularly got a few things wrong tactically in those two games. And look, they've been incredible all season. I felt really sorry for them. I felt sorry for their fans. At the end of the day, when it counted, they didn't perform. Stoke, look, with the squad they've got, we've said all season they should be right up there with Leeds.
There will be next year, by the way. They'll be strong. They'll be strong next year if they can keep the manager.
Yeah.
The manager's key.
So I asked you if Brentford bottled it. This one seems like almost like a loaded question because I already know the answer. Did Nottingham Forest bottle it?
Oh, disgusting! If you're the manager, chairman, fan, you're asking severe questions of your players. You know that, and I'm not just talking about the Stoke City game on Wednesday night. I'm looking at the game before when they got beat away at Barnsley. I'm looking at the game before when they played Swansea City when they were behind twice. Away at Preston, drawing 1-1. At home to Fulham, couldn't score again. In a local derby against Derby County, letting a 96-minute equaliser again against 10 men. You know, you can go beyond again. You know what I mean? That's 7 games. 7 games without a win. You know what I mean? So they haven't just bottled it against Stoke City, but they bottled it for a month, if not 6 weeks. And I do feel really sorry. I can't see another way out for the manager because I think their chairman is pretty ruthless and will probably terminate his contract quite quickly.
I'm surprised he haven't been sacked already.
Man, yeah, to be honest. But then the whole club's not. There's something not right, side. If they could not get in the playoffs from the position they were in, you know what I mean. Out of the last 7 games, they needed 3 points. That's ridiculous for a team of Nottingham Forest and the players they've got for not be able to do it. It's just shocking, really.
So Kelly in the chat there says it's a karma for taking a Doma off Cardiff because they were competing for playoff place, possibly, if you believe in that sort of thing. But I made a joke on Twitter after the watch along on Wednesday because I was watching it back to see if I wanted to check something which I had said, and in the first 7 minutes when we were kind of going through our predictions or you asked me or we asked each other, should I say, what who we thought was going to get in the playoffs and this, that, and the other, and you left out the possibility that Forest were gonna. Forest could drop out of the playoffs and corrected yourself and said, oh, look, it's mathematically possible that Nottingham Forest could drop out of the playoffs. And that shows like how in mine and your eyes, and I assume most people's eyes, it was all about Cardiff or Swansea, who was going to get that 6th position. And then all of a sudden, you ended up in this situation where Forest dropped out and Cardiff were up to 4th.
7-goal swing. It should never happen in modern day football. You know that all Nottingham Forest had to do in that game was sit on a 1-0 defeat, and they would have got promoted. They would have been in the playoffs. That's how stupid this is.
They went looking for an equaliser.
Yeah, no.
When they were down, I didn't understand it.
It just doesn't make sense, and this is where the manager's tactics and it needs to be looked at because it just doesn't add up what they were doing, why they were doing it. You know what I mean? In the last minute, you know, the bombing forward. But at the time, they weren't out of the playoffs, so it just doesn't make sense to me. Yes, they probably would have ended up out of anyway because I know Swansea scored right at the death, but they don't know that's going to happen. And if you let a goal in, you're doing Swansea's work for you, so you can't. Listen, if someone else scores in a different game, you can't affect that. You know what I mean? You just got to take it on the chin and just because Swansea could have won that game 10-0, and you can't do anything about it. But all you can do is look after yourself. And unfortunately, on Wednesday night, Nottingham Forest didn't look after themselves one little bit, and they let themselves down, and they embarrassed themselves, really.
Yeah, they did. Big time. So we're going to go into each team now for the 4 teams in the playoff and kind of discuss their season overall and give a little bit of a rundown of it. But just before we do that, I wanted to ask you a couple of questions. So first of all, after we just discussed the form table. So the favourites on form would be Fulham and Swansea.
Yeah.
Followed by Brentford, then Cardiff. That would make Cardiff the outsider. However, when you look at it from just not the statistics, in my opinion, favourites are Fulham. Probably second is just about Brentford, and then you've got Cardiff and Swansea. In your eyes, with no explanation, who's the favourites for the playoffs?
Fulham.
And who's the outsider?
I'd go Swansea.
So we're going to discuss each one now, which is why I didn't want you to give too much of an explanation. So we're going to discuss each team and also preview the games kind of all in one, rather than discuss each team and then preview the games at the end. It makes more sense to get it all together. So we'll start with Brentford, alphabetical order. First of all, what do you think of their season overall?
Oh, they've had a magnificent season. They haven't let themselves down. They've scored tons of goals. They've attacked. They've done really well defensively. They've been really well. It's what's happened right at the death. What's everyone's going to question now, and everyone's going to say, have they bottled it? Have they got anything left in the tank to push on in the playoffs? But for me, they're playing the perfect team to get them back on track. And that's not me being disrespectful to the opposition. I'm just saying, in terms of, for me, it's the easiest game out the other two teams, and I think they'll be able to attack the way they do, because I don't think Swansea can defend, and probably like to defend against the attacking prowess that Brentford have. And Ollie Watkins leading the line, you got Mbeumo and Ben Rama either side, and I just think them three attacking players, if they turn up side for 1 game, 2 games, 3 games, they've got an opportunity to get promoted. You know what I mean? And I know we're probably going to contradict ourselves, everybody, by the way, because we're going to give everyone an opportunity and a plus to get promoted. But those 3 turn up like they've turned up majority of the season, they're going to be really strong, and they could win the playoff semi-final against Swansea. Very comfortable indeed.
Okay, so you know me, not one to be banging that Swansea drum. I believe that out of all the teams, confidence-wise, Swansea will be so confident, because they've come in last minute. It feels like they've won the cup. But, so from a confidence point of view, Swansea are sky high compared to Brentford, who are, lower than low. However, I wonder whether Swansea, because they would have celebrated and it felt like they've won the cup, but there's still a lot of work to do. Whereas Brentford would have felt really low, and they've got to pick themselves up, and they've got to. Well, it will. The realization will come. We missed out on automatic, but hang on a minute, we can go and play 3 games, and still achieve our dreams, still do it. And I think the players they've got have been so good this season. Overall, they've been the best team in the league. Outside of Leeds, they're the best team in the league.
If Brentford get promoted this season still, and they do it in the playoffs, they've done it the best. They've done it the best possible way, because their players suit Wembley. You know what I mean? The way that they attack, and with the pace and everything they've got. So for me, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for some really good footballing sides to show how good they are, for the big players to step up on the big occasion, because this is what it is now. Now it's an opportunity now, because it's live or die. It's you've got to go and hit the games. You've got to go and try and win the games. It's not about defending and hope not losing the game. Because I look at the Swans. I look at the Swans side, and I think they went into the last game of the season with nothing to lose. Basically, what I mean? If they had nothing to lose, now they've got something to lose. You know what I mean? If they go gung ho like they did against some teams because they had to get the points, they'll get picked off by some good sides. You know what I mean? So they've got to change their tactics accordingly. And I've seen Swansea at its worst against Cardiff, when they just sat there and defended, and it wasn't very pretty. But I've seen them at the best on Wednesday and in previous games where they've attacked with no fear. So they've got to give them credit. They deserve to be where they are. I am a little bit nervous of the potential of an all South Wales final. It's the potential fallout from it. But then you've also got the other side of the coin, which it looks more possible that either probably won't get into it because of the strength of the other two sides. Because, everyone's got a plus of getting in it. Everyone's got a negative. And the only negative I can see of Brentford at the minute is that they're lacking confidence. And for me, that can just go overnight, because when they turn up in training, well, exactly. You know what I mean? If they go 1-0 up against Swansea away from home, and then they can get the second before half-time, they've got the rest of the first leg, they've got all of the second leg to enjoy, and then look forward to Wembley, and then now they're dangerous again. Yeah. So, in a week's time, we could be talking about them full of confidence. They've won a 2-legged game against Swansea 6-7-0, and now they're dangerous. You know what I mean? But then they're overconfident like they were against Stoke City. So we've got the same thing on a different side of the coin.
Yeah, a few interesting comments in the chat on YouTube and Facebook. Johnny Wish says, sadly, he thinks the Jacks will win the whole thing. Gary Clark, otherwise known as Bugs, he says no one's as low as us. He's a Nottingham Forest fan. And die-hard Cardiff City fan Kelly says, I feel Swansea will get promoted. They have no pressure. No pressure. And that is correct.
Yeah.
They have no pressure.
Yeah, no one's expecting them side, but I feel Cardiff have got the same pressure though, because they're going into the Fulham game expecting probably to lose. Everyone's expecting them to lose, not the players, but everyone else is expecting them to lose. They got beat down at Craven Cottage 2 weeks ago, very comfortably, and I'm probably expecting them to go there again and get beat. So if they do anything different, then I'm delighted.
Yeah, that was one of my points actually with Cardiff. Is if you look at all the pundits, the media, the radio stations, TalkSport, Sky, BBC, they're all talking about Swansea's late run. They're all talking about Brentford being one of the best teams in the league all season. Have they bottled it? Are they still in it? And then they've got Fulham, one of the best footballing sides in there. What a great job Scott Parker's done. Nobody is talking about Cardiff City's chances, and I'm all right with that.
Yeah, and listen, it's the way forward.
I'm still concerned, as I've been regularly, over Neil Harris's tactical ability to change games at the right time. If he gets his first 11 right, things seem to go well. If he doesn't, that seems to be where he struggles to change things later in the game. Now, I'm not saying that's happened every game, but as an overall thing, that's one of my concerns with him. James says he'd rather play Brentford in the final. Out of all teams, I'd rather play Brentford. Well, obviously, it doesn't mean it's Brentford or Swansea. I'd rather play Brentford just because of the added pressure.
What you've just said there, Si, about tactics and things. I look at the two games for Cardiff City especially. I see the first game at home against Fulham. They've got to get a result. They've got to get a positive result. They can't go to Craven Cottage and be chasing a game, because that's where teams become dangerous. Because when you've got someone like Mitrovic, who probably will score over the two legs, you know what I mean? Good players come to the table. You know, they've got a lot of players who can hurt you. So Cardiff City need to defend the best they've defended all season. They need to stop the big players playing, and then they've got to be a threat themselves. So it's about getting the tactics spot on. But for me, the first leg is imperative. It's imperative to get a positive result, because if you can go there with anything positive, if you can go there with a win, absolutely amazing. If you can go there and not have been beat, then it goes into a one game instead of a two-legged affair. They've got to keep it down to that one game, because if you're chasing the game, yes, it can be turned on, of course it can, but the chances are against the good sides that good sides don't give you a second opportunity.
Yes, I'm concerned by it. Fulham have got some great players, like then Bobby Reid will probably score the winner against Cardiff in the second leg. Okay, let's do our predictions. So Sunday the 26th of July, Swansea City, a home team against Brentford, 6:30 kickoff. Who you got?
I'm going Brentford. I just think they've got enough. They've got enough going forward for me to get their promotion party back on track.
You'll be very surprised to know that I'm going to go for Brentford, 6-0. No, I'm going to go with a draw for the first leg. I'm going to go Swansea City, Brentford at Swansea. It's going to be a draw. Monday the 27th of July, Cardiff City are at home to Fulham.
I'm going to go draw. I can't. I think this will be probably a more nervy game than the one previous the day before. So yeah, I'm going to go draw. Okay. Can't see many goals.
And then I'm going to go. So my heart says like a sneaky 1-0 to Cardiff, but I just can't see. I just can't. We struggled against Fulham this year, really, in the league, like we really, really did. So I'm going to go 1-0 Cardiff City. Why not?
All right, okay.
Sorry, for that first leg, I went for a draw, didn't I? And you went for Swansea.
Oh, Brentford. I went for Brentford.
Just testing you.
Not going Swansea.
And I've gone for Cardiff, and you've gone for draw.
Draw.
Okay, and second leg at Brentford versus Swansea. Who you got, mate?
I'm going home win again, so I'm going Brentford are going to make the playoff final.
So you've gone Brentford to win. I'm going to go with a draw in the second leg, and our cousins from down the motorway to win on penalties. So,
Well,
what's my prediction? Is it Swansea City to win?
yeah,
Or
Swansea. Wait,
is it
you've gone.
draw? I don't know.
No, you said draw. Did you not say draw?
I said draw, didn't I? But obviously, I think Swansea will win on penalties. But I suppose it's not about that, is it? It's just to get
No,
that
it's
game
about the
on
90
its own.
minute, just 90-minute game. Yeah.
So I'm going to go with a draw. And then on the Thursday we got Fulham as the home team to Cardiff.
Unfortunately, I just can't see Fulham losing. I watched the game 2 weeks ago and I was really impressed with Fulham. I thought they were fantastic. So, unfortunately, I think Fulham will just have too much for Cardiff. I hope I'm wrong.
So I'm going to go with a draw. No. Yeah, I'm going to go with a draw in the second leg. A score draw, like a 2-2 or a 3-3 in the second leg, which means Cardiff will go through on aggregate, which will mean the final will be Brentford. In my eyes, the final will be Swansea City versus Cardiff City.
Mm.
On the subject of predictions, we did our predictions last week. Andy is in the lead, 2-1, going into the final week of the general season. So Saturday, I'm not going to go through all the results, but we finished the day. Andy was 7-3 up, and I was like, oh my god. Well, the weekend we finished Sunday as well, 7-4. I managed to pull one back on the Sunday. However, it went 7-5, 7-6, 7-6, 8-7, 9-8, draw 10-9, 11-9, 11-10. Going into the last two games, it was 11-10 to Campbell. And then it just went to pieces. So Andy won 11-10. I made a comeback. However, last week when we predicted the Andy Campbell Show derby, the Andy Campbell derby between Middlesbrough and Cardiff City, I not only said that Cardiff would win, I also said that Cardiff would win 3-1. So, in my opinion, as host,
Nope.
I believe that I should get an extra 1.5 for guessing the correct score, which makes the final score 11.5 to 11 in my favour, takes the total score to 2-2 going into the playoffs.
Kelly says no. Kelly says no.
All the comments in the live chat say that I'm right. So there we go. 2-2 going into the last weekend. Okay, so 2 up, 2 down for last week. Who have you got for your downs, mate?
I've got Nottingham Forest. I just thought it was absolutely disgusting. Not just the week, but probably the month. But yeah, the last two games, they let themselves down massively, and Wednesday just finished off, in my opinion, the manager's future at that football club. The players should need to have a good look at themselves for the rest of the season and understand that they've embarrassed the football club. Yeah,
I thought it was disgraceful. Gary, in the chat there, tell us, what's the thoughts of the fans from Forest's point of view? We've got a bit of time left, so I'd be interested to hear just how angry the reaction was, because like Andy and I have said, we thought it was disgusting, real disgusting. My first down is Birmingham City retiring Jude Bellingham's shirt. I think it's absolutely ludicrous.
Silly.
Just ridiculous. And I think it's embarrassing for all concerned. I think it embarrasses him. I think it embarrasses the club. And I can't imagine the fans think it's particularly clever either. No. Who's your second down, mate?
My second one, I've gone for Brentford. I just think the week they've had, we've been their biggest plaudits all season. We've given them the praise when praise is due, but I think that something went wrong in the last week of the season, because they needed a point in the end out of the last two games, which they didn't get to get promoted. So it all boiled down to the last two games, which they just didn't get nothing from.
Against and two teams who finished
in
the bottom
two teams
five.
who probably should have got relegated. The way the season's gone. So just very disappointing for them.
That's about Jude Bellingham. He hasn't died. Like, it's very true, isn't it? Come on, it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
So my second down, I've gone for Stoke City, and this is a bit sneaky because it's almost like an overall thing. They beat Nottingham Forest 4-1 on Wednesday with great performance. They beat what did they do on Saturday? They beat Brentford 1-0 on Saturday. I think they've been disgraceful. I got to be honest, mate. That squad should be in the top three. I think it's been disgusting. I think they've let the fans down. I think they've let the manager down all season. And then to turn up and wallop a playoff contender and beat, in my opinion, the team that's been the second best team in the whole league all season in 2 consecutive games, I think shows just how bad the players' attitude's been.
I totally agree.
The season.
Totally agree. It's just it just doesn't. I just doesn't sit right. We say how teams can just turn it on when they think they can just want to turn it on. It's just not right. And
use the term that you used during your predictions for the match. They've down tools. They stitched Nathan Jones up big time when he was manager, and I feel like they've done the same. Great. They won a couple of games against some good teams, but where's that been? Where's that attitude been all season? So they were my down. Sorry about that little rant there.
It's all right.
First up for you, mate.
I've gone Swansea City. You know, we've been critical on teams and we've given teams some plaudits as we've gone, and I just think they deserve huge plaudits for what they achieved the last week of the season, to get in the playoffs, to go to Reading, who were on form. It was an absolutely fantastic result. So, you know what I mean? They deserve all the plaudits they got. So for Swansea, get my first up.
So I've kind of gone for a similar thing. I've gone for South Wales. I thought when you look at what Swansea did, you rightly say what they did on Wednesday was incredible. To not just to win, to get enough goals under that much pressure it's a great achievement. And obviously you need a bit of luck with the results going your way, but they still had to go and score 4 goals or whatever. Was it 4 goals? So, you know, hats off to them. But I also thought Cardiff were very, very good on Wednesday. Professional. If they let that get to 0-0 with 20 minutes to go, it's very nervy.
Yeah.
But they put it to bed. You know, they got an early goal. They didn't just sit back on a 1-0. They went and finished it. They put it to bed. And I think by 55 minutes, 60 minutes, I wasn't even concerned about what Cardiff were doing in terms of like a stress point of view. So South Wales as a whole, I've got for my first up. What's your second up, mate?
I've gone for Luton and Barnsley. So the combination that came up last year from League One, and I just thought that it's credit where credit's due. I thought they were absolutely brilliant. Two small football clubs in order to stay up was just fantastic, and they deserve everything they've got. And to see the celebrations after for Barnsley was just absolutely superb. It's like they got promoted. There was more celebrations there than I saw at West Brom and Leeds put together. It was just absolutely fantastic from a group of players who probably didn't expect it, but they've obviously achieved greatness. And Luton have been, you know what I mean, we said at the start, you know, I'd love them to stay up, and just thankfully they did.
Yes. Yeah, I was really happy to see both teams stay up. Bit of fortune with Wigan, but, you know, it is what it is, isn't it? Wigan, I don't know what Kelly just put there. She said, what were Wigan thinking? And I got to say, exactly that. What on earth were they playing at?
Yeah, well, the thing is also, we could put them in our downs every
I was going to put
week.
them in my down for this, because I just thought what were they doing? They had to win.
Yeah.
So to play, like they almost seemed, I saw some of the highlights of the second half, particularly late on, and there was no urgency at all. Like it was just very confusing. So, but I'll get to it in a minute. My second up is Jacob and Josh Murphy. Both scored a goal on Wednesday. More so Josh Murphy, but I wanted to give Jacob a shout out as well because I thought, you know, brothers, he scored a goal. They've both taken a lot of grief over the last year or so. But Josh Murphy particularly has taken a lot of grief, and a lot of it has come from Cardiff City fans. His goals over the last couple of weeks have settled the nerves. They've been important goals which have won us points. And hopefully he can go into the playoffs and show what he can do because he's a very talented boy. And I was really pleased for him.
You're on about confidence, Si. He's one player in particular who's going into the playoffs with full of confidence. Him and Mendes Lang and Lee Tomlin. You know what I mean? Gladstone. You've got attacking players. You know what I mean? I know we can say that about every team because every team's got players, threats who are playing well, scoring goals. But Big credit, because obviously he's had his injury problems, Josh Murphy, this season, and I think lockdown's done him a bit of favour. He's come back really fit. He's got himself sharp. He's got himself back in the side, and he's playing with full of confidence because he's a good player. Listen, cream always rises, you know. So there's never been a doubt that he's been a good footballer. It's just, can he stay fit? Can he stay confident? And can he do enough to stay in the games to win football matches for Cardiff and start creating chances for people? Middlesbrough was excellent, and on Wednesday night he carried it on. So he deserves to carry on in the side.
Yeah, spot on, mate. Guys, if you've got any questions, drop them in now. We're going to just have a quick chat about a couple of things before we finish up, and then we're going to obviously finish up as we go, and we'll answer any questions you've got. So I want to go back to what I was saying about Wigan. I wonder whether so Barnsley clearly knew that if they were in the bottom, if they were third from bottom and Wigan didn't win, they clearly knew that Barnsley players clearly knew that they were going to stay up. They clearly knew that Wigan were going to have those points taken away. And thing. Now, me and you didn't know for sure when we were covering it and talking about it on Wednesday. Now, my problem with it is do all those clubs and players, do they all know that Wigan were 100% having the points? Or do some know, some don't? Now, that's a massive problem for me. Do Wigan players know? So is that why they weren't urgent?
I think we spoke about it, on Wednesday a little bit, that for me, it's the kind of worms that are going to be open here. If the EFL and the league or whoever's involved in it do not put them down and do not take the points off them, then every single team tomorrow, if the decision's made tonight and they say that they're not getting points deducted off them because of COVID-19 or whatever excuse they make, then tomorrow, Middlesbrough, Cardiff City, Hull City, who are riddled with debt, by the way, Sheffield Wednesday, all these teams will go, right, hang on a minute, we're going to do it, because if this gets us debt free, we're going to do it, and rightly so. You know what I mean? So they've got to stick by it. It's rules are rules. The rules are in place because it's got to protect every other team, because teams could do it all the time on purpose, and it's just to be debt free next season. We'll go and spend loads of money, and then we'll be debt free next season. It's not a business way to do things. It's not an ethical way to do things as well. So for me, the league should have made a decision straight away. No appeal process, so everyone knew. Last game of the season, this is what you need to do.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. It's I find it frustrating and a bit shady. So Gary Clark Boatsy said about Forest. I asked him what was the feeling around Nottingham, and do they feel the same way as what we just said? Were they a bit more understanding? He said they're very upset. Like Andy said, the players have let the board, the owners, the fans down. The whole city is gutted. And I feel
rightly so
for the fans, mate.
Rightly so as well, because I reeled off there the games where they've dropped points or lost, and it's embarrassing. For a football club the size of Nottingham Forest and the history and the heritage they've got, they should be achieving playoffs minimum. You know what I mean? Lewis Grabbin, he's their best player in my opinion. What is Lewis Grabbin thinking right now? Is he wanting to stay another season in the Championship with Nottingham Forest, or is he wanting to play with a side who are going to create more chances next year and be a Premier League player the season after? Of course, he's going to want to do that, and he's just one player. You've got Lolly, you've got Amiobi, you've got Cash, you've got all these good players, in my opinion, who could go and play on another side if they chose to. And Nottingham Forest need to be very careful about moving forward. Absolutely,
they got to make the right. I think it's been a bit of a shambles off the pitch for a while over there. I got to say, but they got to get this decision right now, and they're going to sack the manager.
Roy Keane,
get it right. I would.
Roy Keane,
give him full control. Give him some money. Give him full control.
Gary, still watching? Gary, tell us your thoughts. Roy Keane, new Nottingham Forest manager,
with his own backroom staff and money to spend, with full domain over who stays, who goes. Rules and regulations for this playing squad, the youth squads.
I'll tell you what, Si. I'll tell you one thing: wouldn't have happened under Roy Keane. They wouldn't have given up a 4-1 result at home.
No, they would not. Okay, so Andy, to finish us off, we are going to have an Andy Campbell Championship Show Player of the Year vote. So me and you are going to pick 3 players who we think are contenders for Player of the Year, and then I'm gonna go and gonna put it on. We'll put it on social media, on the Ace, on the Andy shows. We'll put up some polls, and we will see who gets voted as the Championship Player of the Year, or the Andy Campbell Championship Player of the Year. So you tell me, mate, who's your first pick?
My first pick, I've gone for a little bit of a mixture. So I've gone defender, midfielder, and attacker. I've tried to mix it up. So I've gone for Luke Ayling at Leeds United. I think he's been absolutely fantastic going forward and defensively. I think he deserves a lot of credit for getting promoted with his Leeds United side.
Okay, and who's your second one?
My second one, I've gone for Matthias Klick. I know he's obviously your favourite and one of your heroes. But he's had an amazing season and he makes Leeds United tick as well. There's other Leeds United players I probably could have picked alongside or instead of, but I think he's a standout player for me in the league and of Leeds United. And
your third and final pick for the Andy Campbell Championship Show Player of the Year.
This was a toss-up between Ben Rama and Ollie Watkins, and I chose Ollie Watkins just because he scored 9 more goals than Ben Rama. As I know, Ben Rama's finished the season strongly, but we're on about a season. So for me, Ollie Watkins has been consistent throughout. He scored tons of goals, and I believe he will score more. So that means, obviously, he's going to score again this season.
So I'm going to go with my first selection is Jude Bellingham. 17 years old. He's been consistently one of the best players in the Championship. And for someone that age, playing for a team who were in a relegation battle, to stand out the way he did and play the way he did week in, week out, I think is incredible, considering he spent most of the season age 16. Fair play to him, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I put him in there. My second choice is Matheus Pereira of West Bromwich Albion.
Yeah, he was on my list.
8 goals this season, 16 assists. He's had 78 shots on goal and 45% of them have been on target. And I think he's got a good shout. So he was my second pick. I would have had Glick on there, obviously. There was a couple of suggestions. Mitrovic, Paddy Bamford, maybe. Lee Tomlin was in my choices. But ultimately, Lewis Holtby was also in my choices as well.
Bradley Dack. If Bradley Dack hadn't been injured, he'd have won it. He'd have won mine. I'd have voted that many times.
I got to get that romantic music for every time you mention his name. Adam Armstrong is my third choice. 17 goals, 6 assists. Outstanding.
You got Mitrovic. Listen. The league's full of top players.
Oh, you didn't pick Mitrovic.
No.
So sorry to Adam Armstrong. I picked Mitrovic. I thought you would pick Mitrovic. That's why I didn't pick him. So I'd go with Mitrovic because I just think he's been superb.
Yeah, I was going to pick him, but I went for Ollie Watkins instead.
Yeah, sorry. I apologise to Adam Armstrong. He was my next choice. So we got a couple of interesting comments in the chat. Johnny Wish asks, did the Forest players apologise to the fans?
I like to hope so.
Kelly didn't. Kelly says, did Chris Hughton to Nottingham Forest, or is he definitely going to Bristol?
I heard that today. I heard the Bristol City rumour today. So he wants to get back into football. He's been out a long time, so he will be back in the job for next season. I'm 100% sure.
And Gary says about Roy Keane, I must think this is, he said he left under a bit of a cloud, but still very highly thought of at the club, to be honest.
Yeah.
James Costley says Mitrovic, good shout. And Gary also says, since the Farwaz days, behind the scenes, the club is on the up, but this was a major setback. It was a bit too soon for us, but should be in the playoffs. No excuses with the players we have. Let's hope we don't suffer from a big hangover. So my point on that is, if they hadn't made the playoffs, if they finished 7th, fine. But to be in the position they were in, needing 3 points from 7 games or something, and then on the final game, go and play. Was it Stoke? Wasn't it? Was it Stoke they played?
Yeah. Well, they didn't even need points. I mean, the last game of the season.
They just don't get hammered.
Yeah, they just need to shut up shop.
Yeah, to be in that position where you just literally, it doesn't even matter if you lose, just don't lose heavily.
Yeah.
And not make the playoffs. That's where I think is the kind of the issue with it. If they had like played the season out and just missed out on the playoffs like Millwall did, fair play.
I remember the game. The game that they were 1-0 down. They equalised. They went 2-1 down. When you go 2-1 down the second time, you're behind again. Just go, right, listen. As long as we don't let any more goals in here, we're all right. We're all right. Let's just sit onto this. Let's just sit onto this and see where it takes us in 10, 15, 20 minutes. You don't have to go gung-ho and try and get a goal back straight away, and that's ended up what's causing the problems.
Yes. Who was the third player who I nominated for Player of the Year? I said Mitrovic, Pereira, and someone else. Who was it? Who was the third one?
Mitrovic.
Pereira. Someone tell me who was the third choice I picked. I can't remember. I'm just trying to make a note of it.
Mitrovic, Pereira. And you mentioned...
I mentioned some players, and that's where I'm getting confused.
Lewis Holtby.
No,
Armstrong, Holtby. You definitely mentioned them two.
I mentioned some Cardiff players. I don't know. I can't remember.
Lee Tomlin. Armstrong. Bellingham.
Bellingham.
Yeah.
That's it. Well in, James.
James is a hero. James, at least you're listening.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, so that just about wraps us up. We've gone a little bit over the hour, but so we'll have a look.
Listen, we talked for 2.5 hours the other day. We can do that every
week.
week.
We go a little bit over, can't we?
Yeah.
Let me just quickly check what these last couple of comments. Gary says as well there, he said he thought it could happen as it's Forest, even with 17 minutes to go. Been there before. Yeovil, Blackpool.
Yeah,
this is a new low. Sorry to bring it up, Gary, and make you...
Sorry, Gary. Gary's been there and wore the T-shirt every season.
Yeah.
Gary's not looking forward to the new Leeds.
Oh, I hope not, for their sake. God.
Yeah, so do I.
Congratulations to Leeds, by the way. We never got round to paying tribute to them. That's Andy's fault. He didn't want to secretly. He didn't want to pay tribute to them.
I do it on social media. I've been putting some really positive things on, and I've been getting shut down. As well. By the way, I am doing it again. I'm not doing it.
People criticise us for having biases.
I know.
How much praise have I put on Swansea tonight? How much praise have I put on Liverpool in the last couple of weeks? How much praise have we put on? Who won the league? Who was it? Who won the league?
Which league? Leeds. Yeah, I put loads of positive comments on about loads of teams. I get shut down.
We just give our honest views and we break it all down, innit? Look, if you want to hear more of me talking about football, I'll be on Red Army Radio at about 10:30 tonight. The link's on my Facebook page, which I'm quite looking forward to. Going to be talking about Cardiff.
It's good. I did it. I
was going to say you did it last week.
I was on last week, and it was it's amazing show. I think it's broadcast Devon Radio, loads of radio stations down south. Yeah, so it's really good. But it's on Facebook on Red Army TV. So I've got the link, but yeah, it's an excellent show.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. Talking a bit of Cardiff, for the potential of Cardiff Swansea, and funny enough, Dave has just texted me. And he said, if you have a Cardiff supporting buddy, we can have both of you on, because it looks like we'll have 2 Swansea fans on, so I don't want you to be outnumbered. I'll take it. Oh, come on. No, I don't know. We'll sort something out. Of course, massive thank you to Black Diamond Sports, to Bespoke Financial for sponsoring the show, to helping the show. Can't do it without them. Appreciate it massively. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in. Been a bit slightly quieter in the chat, but I appreciate all of you. And Monday, we have ex-Wales international, Mr. David Cottrell, joining us. Back to the usual time of 7:30. Cannot wait. It's going to be very interesting. If you tune into the radio later, I will see you then. If not, we will see you on Monday evening to talk to David Cottrell about his career and all things football. And of course, there's always new shows on Ace Podcast Nation. And we've got an absolute belter dropping on Sunday, so keep your eye out for that. Andy, it's been a pleasure, my friend.
It's been really good. Championship nearly over and done with for a year. Well, it's been the longest year in the world, hasn't it, for the championship? But let's see what the week brings.
Absolutely. See you on Monday, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
See you guys. Thank you.
My mummy and daddy have been talking about life insurance. It sounds like something to protect my brother and me, but I don't really understand. Then my Auntie Louise told Mummy about Bespoke Financial Teesside. She said they're a local company who helped her with her life insurance. Mummy got in touch, and because they're based locally, a man called Darren was able to come to our house. He was really friendly. Darren stayed for a cup of tea and made it all really easy to understand. He said that life insurance will protect our home and family if anything bad were to happen. Like if Mummy or Daddy got sick, then we'd get enough money to take care of us, and our house would be paid for so it wouldn't get taken away. After an hour, Darren said goodbye and Mummy and Daddy seemed a lot happier. Once it was all sorted, we could all relax and watch a film together as a family. I don't know why they didn't do it sooner.
I belong to you.
I belong to you.